Hello, Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce members. This is Drew Camp, President and CEO of the Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce, here for one of our candidate interviews with one of our County Board of Supervisors candidates, Justin Schultz. Justin is an incumbent running for re-election and for one of the 3 seats that is open on the June 7th and primary ballot and November 8th general election ballot. There are 8 candidates running for those 3 seats, so it's a highly contested race. And Justin's been working really hard trying to get your vote before the primary coming up on June 7th. So Justin, thanks for being with us here this morning.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll jump right into the questions. And the first question that we're going to ask is, what are the top issues Pottawatomie County is facing, and how do you propose they be addressed if you're reelected?
Sure. So I think first and foremost, when you look at that question, is you really got to consider the scope. And, if you start as our western side in Carter Lake and work your way all the way over to Walnut, those top issues are very much different in all those smaller rural communities and even Council Bluffs. So I think the best way to really put it, in terms of what I see to be the biggest issue that, kind of ties them all together, it's infrastructure. And I'm not talking about just roads or just bridges, that's your typical answer for that. But the reality is that there's a lot more things like, water, sewer, fiber, those kind of things. So I would say it's probably, one of the top issues that face our county as a whole. I went to a city council meeting in Carson last night, and that was one of the concerns, is that they have a neighborhood on the edge of town that they're trying to, get developed. And they're trying to put more homes in their community so they can draw people to that community. But then all of a sudden we start talking about other things that they don't have. Well, there's an issue with the drainage that they have with stormwater. There's an issue with, the pavement that's not there on the gravel road inside city limits. And so it all boils back down to infrastructure. And I think that is probably the key thing that I'd like to pursue as a county board member and as a team with our other board members to, tackle. How do we do that? I mean, the biggest thing there is we need to find, number one, the funds. We have quite a bit of money that we levy in property tax, obviously, but there's a lot of money that comes in the form of grants, local option sales tax. We also have the American Recovery dollars that are there. And so, there's infrastructure dollars coming down from the feds through the state that we're going to take advantage of. So the best thing we can do is try to figure out what those needs are, and then go try to tackle them as best we can and work with those communities. And really, it boils down to kind of a decentralized process where we're going to get with those communities, work with them to make sure that we're meeting the needs that they would like to see in their community, instead of us trying to tell them what they need. So that's probably one of the key ones. And then just other ones that are going on. I mean, look at the housing market right now. You get on the MLS today and you start to look at affordable housing. It's almost non-existent. And when they are on the MLS, they go within a couple of days. And so, your average family that's trying to move to our community or try to maybe step out of renting a place to buy their first home, or even the young pups come out of college, it's very difficult for them to get into a home here right now. And I think that's something that the county board, while we're not necessarily the real estate developer by any means, or the people that are going to force those issues on housing, what we can do is try to leverage our dollars, make sure the infrastructure is in place so that there are builders out there to build the new homes, which then you kind of have your shuffling of your stocks. You got people that are kind of upgrading their homes, moving into, say, something a little bit bigger, nicer, because their family's expanding. And then it opens up some of those more affordable ones for folks that like to move in. So, those are probably, 2 of the ones that I see being a big concern right now. But again, you go to any one of these random communities in Pot County, and you're going to get a different answer. And so the best thing we can do is listen and hear what these communities have to say, and our constituents and the residents of Pot County, and try to do our best to tackle those issues, when those opportunities arise.
Thanks, Justin. And moving more from a local level at the county up to a little bit more looking at maybe some state issues that impact county government. So what do you see as the biggest issue at the state level, and how do you propose it be addressed and advocated for or against if reelected?
Yeah, so what I'll tell you is about, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I'd say the biggest issue that was on my mind was, the biofuels bill. And, for those that don't know, I've been working in the ethanol industry for, 13 years now. And so that was a huge one for me personally, as well as, what I saw for our farming community, a rural agricultural community in Pot County. And ultimately that bill was signed into law, and we're going to start seeing, higher blends or availability of different blends that are going to be at our retailers, countywide. So that's a great win for us. That was probably one of the biggest ones on my mind, top of mind. But again, I'll come back to that infrastructure conversation. And, there's a lot of money that came out of the federal government down to the states, and we got to figure out the best way to get that divvied out to the counties. And then from there, we got to figure out how to leverage those dollars to each of the communities that need them. Now, what am I going to do to take care of that? Well, first and foremost, I've developed and established relationships with every one of our state local elected leaders that we interact with, at least within our districts in Pot County, as well as some of the surrounding communities and counties. So I'm going to leverage those relationships that I have. I communicate with almost all of them on a weekly basis, whether it be through SIRE or whether, my full-time job or whether it be for the county. But I'm going to continue to leverage those conversations and make sure that I have a clear understanding of how that money is going to be coming down to the county level, and then, work with the board, work with our engineering office, work with our planning and zoning department. And, we have some of the best department heads probably statewide, I'd argue. And I'm going to work with those folks to make sure that we can, get those dollars leveraged in the right ways.
And then looking ahead into the future, if you're reelected, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for the county going forward?
Yeah, so this is a very difficult question to answer because there are so many opportunities out there that we're going to have coming forward. But top of mind that comes to my mind right away is, working with regional water. We have the opportunity really to get, a clean and healthy water source to a lot of the rural communities, a lot of the rural, residents that are out there that normally would never get that opportunity. And so I think that's something that we have an opportunity to do and expand. And we are. In fact, we are working on a project right now just south of Council Bluffs in Lewis Township, where we're going to be running a pretty significant water line to service about 200 new homes that are going to be built out there. So that's a huge deal. I mean, they're going to have new tax space that's out there. And, it's kind of like that chicken and the egg. Everyone wants to build this nice, great big house out there, but what comes first? Do we need to put the infrastructure in place first? Do we need to build the houses first and then do it? And so we're trying to figure out ways we can get those kind of things run out there. Then the other one, we're working with, several broadband companies actually, and there's a lot of state money that's going into getting a lot of our residents connected. So there's a lot of, especially you get outside of some of these towns, and there's people that, don't have internet at all, don't have any kind of source of getting online other than maybe getting on their cell phone, and even then, that can be a struggle. So we're working with right now three broadband companies to kind of take advantage of those state grants and get that pushed out to our citizens. And again, you can go this question. You can go so many different directions. We have amazing opportunities in conservation that are coming shortly. We're going to have veteran affairs. That's something just last week, even to give an example, we just reopened our rural office out there in the Avoca courthouse. And so, we're going to have opportunities to expand services, and you can do that in pretty much any department within the county. So that's something that I'm going to work really hard to do, is making sure that we can make sure services are available to our citizens and that they have access to everything that they need. And like I said, I can go down any avenue with that one, but we've got a lot of great things that we're working on, and I see a place in that for me to help make that better.
Thanks, Justin. It's definitely a good situation where we have those different varying opportunities depending on where you're at throughout the county.
Yeah.
And then as you look at capitalizing on those opportunities and some of the other things you've referenced before, how do you envision and plan to work with the chamber and business community to make sure that you're utilizing those connections and resources to move Pottawatomie County forward?
Yeah, so I guess I'd point back to what we've already been doing. And me personally, I've developed a relationship with you, obviously, with a lot of your staff that are at the Chamber of Commerce. And I think the best thing we can do is continue to maintain those relationships and communicate. Communication is probably the number one thing here to make sure that I understand what the business community needs that the county can potentially help them with. And so, being on the county board, I hear from a lot of business owners locally, throughout the county, even on things that are, needs that are out there, some great ideas that are out there that potentially we could help with. And I think the best thing we do is keep those things going. Now, just recently, you've hired on a workforce development person, and she's done a phenomenal job for, making those things happen, getting people connected with new jobs and getting connected to our community. And I think we need to continue doing that. And so, I talked earlier about how we've got kind of a housing issue. we don't want to lose the workforce either. And so if we can draw workforce here and we can draw people to our community, that's incredibly important. So that's why I think the chamber is probably one of the biggest assets we have through the county, through the city council Bluffs, to make things happen here. So I think the best thing I can say is that we just maintain that relationship and continue our best to communicate.
Well, thank you, Justin, and thanks for mentioning the workforce development program. We certainly appreciate the support both the county and the city have given that program as well. And when you look back, not only about the time you've served on the board, but then looking ahead, what unique skills do you think you have brought and will continue to bring to the position?
Yeah, I think when I try to describe myself to people, it's I say I'm a combat veteran, community leader, and a proud father. And so I try to tell people that my skills are all within those pillars of my life. And I've been on the county board now 7 years. I've got the experience being on the county board to know how budgets work. I know how the interconnectivity of our departments work, and I know how to make sure that things get done as a county supervisor. But the difference there is that I also have an education in public administration and public policy. So my undergrad, I went to the University of Iowa, got my bachelor's in international relations and foreign policy. Overall degree was political science. But then, just it was the fall before COVID hit, I decided that I wanted to go back and get my master's degree. And that's where I went back to American University in Washington, D.C. And I think that, in doing so, I was able to kind of connect some of the dots that I didn't necessarily see that were there before. And I feel like I've got the education, but then I'd also point to my leadership. I've been in the Iowa National Guard for, almost 22 years now. I've been connected to the Iowa Guard for most of my life, as my father served before I joined. But, I've developed my leadership skills through the military. I'm currently a field grade officer. I'm the current operations officer for the state of Iowa. So I deal with all training statewide with all of our National Guard units that are there, and even some active duty components that kind of intermingle with us. So, definitely leadership is one of the things that I bring to the table. I have the decision-making ability that most people don't. I operate at a much different level. I see the big picture when I make my decisions, and sometimes that can be taken for, confusion. But the reality is that I've already played out scenarios in my head. I have courses of action that I've already developed in my mind of how I see things going. And so I bring that to the table that I would say that most candidates don't. And that's not to knock them. Everyone brings a different set of skills. It's just something that I bring. The other thing too, I mentioned being a father. I bring passion or compassion, I should say. I would say I'm a newer father. I have a stepson now who's 9, and I met him when he was 3 years old. And, becoming a father almost instantaneously when I met my wife was something that has truly blessed me. But what I've learned is that we've got a lot of work to do for our children. And, I pushed programs like the Dream Playground, and that's where I kind of tie back the leadership that I brought to the table and that drive that I have. But ultimately, it's that compassion that I have and looking forward to what we need for our children. So those are just some of the skills that I think I bring, between education, leadership, and compassion. But I'd also say that, one of the best things too is that I'm a normal human being. I'm one of those people that you can pick up the phone and call me. I'm not going to give you some BS answer. I'm going to try to get you something that is, of quality, so that you can make a decision off that, or at least understand what the real situation is. Not every decision I make people like, not everything that I say people like, but at the end of the day, you're going to know where I'm at. I'm going to tell you where I'm at, and pretty straightforward guy. So I'd say that kind of highlights some of the skills that I bring.
Well, thanks, Justin. And I can certainly identify with a few of those things, also having an MPA and then also being a fairly new father as well. So I know we definitely have some similar mindsets and skill sets in that regard too. Is there anything that you did not or were not able to touch on that you think people should know before going to the ballots on June 7th as to why you make the best candidate for them to vote for?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's nothing that we haven't touched on, but what I would say is that, as a candidate for this office, as someone who's been here doing this job, what I bring to the table is passion. I'm very passionate about being a county supervisor. I eat, sleep, and breathe being a county supervisor. I'm often in trouble with my wife because I'm answering emails or answering phone calls in the evening when I should be, probably not doing that. But the reality is that this is who I am. It's a part of what I've been doing the last, 7 years, and I'm very passionate about what I do. And that's why I pursued my education at American University. And I'll tell you too, In doing so, it was a double major. I did public policy on top of being public administration, and I did that with honors. So I graduated with honors. My kids would go to bed about 9:30 at night, and then in the evening, probably shortly after 10 o'clock till about 2 in the morning, I was doing grad school, and then getting right back up early in the morning, going and working at Sire. I've worked at Sire, at Southwest Sire Renewable Energy for, like I said, 13 years. I've been connected to the agricultural industry of Pot County for that entire time. It's no secret that we are a rural community in the grand scheme of things. And so I believe that agriculture is the lifeblood of our county. Now, we have a significant, city of Council Bluffs here, but we're also part of the major metropolitan of Omaha. So that's pretty significant. We're a very unique county, but I think what I bring to the table is that I can kind of see through the different dimensions of our county and the different dynamics that are out there, and I'm able to get things done. And that's something that I believe I bring to the table. The other part of this that I talk about having a passion is that I also have drive. I'm a very driven individual. Very few people can tell me that I cannot do something. I was told that the dream playground would never happen. There's no way, it's not going to work. And here we are today. Our community came together and we built a $1.3 million, largest ADA compliant playground in the area. And it's incredible. And look at the draw that it brought to our county. And so I think that I'll tell you that I'm probably, maybe that's stubbornness on top of drive, but I think I bring a unique skill set. I bring a mindset that is very much focused on our residents. I listen to what people have to say. And sometimes I wear my heart on my sleeve. And sometimes I say too much too. And I get it, but I'm a normal guy. I'm one of those people that I want to make our community a better place. That's why I decided to stay here after college. That's why I've put roots here. That's why I've made investments here. And I want to make this the best possible community for everyone, really, and most importantly, our future for our children.
Well,
So
Justin, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said I'll leave it there. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Justin, and thank you all to our Council Bluffs Area Chamber of Commerce members for supporting our government affairs and public policy programming. Do come back and watch our other candidate videos. We're going to be doing interviews with each of the candidates prior to the June 7th primary election, and then we'll do some additional pieces leading up to the November 8th general election as well. So do please tune into those and make sure you get yourself as informed as possible before voting on June 7th. Thank you all for watching.